Hi folks, it's Mrs. Culver here today. We are talking about renewable energy resources. You've all read your textbook on the subject. You've all taken a couple of quizzes even. You're all really clear that there are 6 renewable energy resources. Today, what am I going to do? Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some misconceptions that I think some of us may have about at least some of our renewable energy resources. Okay? So, here we go. Number 1, these resources are renewable energy resources. Some of the things that we are talking about are not necessarily renewable resources. And when we get to those, we'll explain the difference. All right? And I know that's something that's been bugging a bunch of you. So keep that in the back of your mind. We'll come back to it as we need to. Okay? But now let's just start working through the kinds of renewable energy resources. And at the very end of this video, I am going to have an assignment for you. Yes, indeed. All right, here we go. Number 1, solar power. Okay, this is in fact sunlight. But please, when we're talking about solar energy, we're not talking about getting a suntan. We're not talking about being warm because we're sitting in the sun. And we're not talking about getting skin cancer. Wrong. This is not about being on the beach. This is about using the power of the sun that comes into the earth every day and harnessing that power to create electricity. Got it? Good. Oh, that's not quite right, is it? Because that's active solar power. Yes, there is some passive solar power. When we're talking about that, we're talking about using the power of the sun in a careful way to help warm us up, say by raising the blinds in the morning when the sun is streaming in through those windows and letting that warmth warm up our room and thereby warm up ourselves. That's passive solar, okay? But active solar is what we're mostly talking about here, harnessing that power to create electricity. Right. On to number 2. Wind! Wind power. We are not talking about letting the wind blow on our bicycle and move it, or our wagon and move it down the street. We're talking about capturing the power of the wind with wind turbines and converting that power to electricity. And I notice many of you find that a disadvantage with wind is that the sun does not heat the surface of the earth evenly. Yeah, that's right. But I need you to be able to translate that fact into what that means for wind power. Why does that mean that there is a disadvantage to wind power? Go back to your textbook, find the answer, and answer this question as part of your Cornell notes. Good. On to number 3. Hydroelectric, our third source of renewable energy resource. Okay, folks, some of you are calling this water, and you're getting confused and saying, water isn't renewable, we're using it up and we're dirtying it up and all that stuff. We're not talking about water. We're not talking about water to feed ourselves, grow crops, bathe ourselves, bathe our belongings. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about flowing water in a river. We're talking about water using the movement of that water to, once again, turn a turbine, just like we use the movement of air in wind to turn a turbine and generate electricity. That's what we're talking about. And the reason that is renewable is because even if we dirty up that river, as long as that river is flowing, we can use that kinetic energy of that flow to turn a turbine and generate electricity. Got it? I'm sure you do. Let's move on to number 4. Geothermal energy. This is where we drill through the Earth's crust and get down close enough to the magma to use that magma, the heat from that magma, for those of you who are Austin Powers fans, we use that heat to heat up water. Sometimes we just use that warm water to heat our homes. Other times we use that warm water to do what? Oh my goodness, turn a turbine and generate electricity. This is getting repetitive, isn't it? Okay? The problem with geothermal, many of you say, yeah, it's really expensive to drill down. It's also the case that there aren't that many places on the surface of the Earth where the Earth's crust is thin enough to make that drilling practical. Okay? Got it? Yes. Let's move to number 5. Nuclear power. Most of you are real clear that what's going on here is we're using nuclear fission to split the incredibly dense nucleus of the atom. And when we crack that open, right, that incredibly tightly packed matter goes springing out of it just like the spring sprung out of our nuts can, right? Out of our joke nuts can. Okay? We use that energy to generate heat. We use the heat to heat up water and create steam, and the steam turns a turbine, which generates electricity. Oh my goodness. Here we go again. More turbine, more generating electricity. Okay, let's go to number 6. Biomass. Biomass is what we've been using longer than anything else as a species to generate energy for ourselves, okay? The sort of most basic way of doing this, burning wood, chopping down a tree and starting a fire to warm yourself, cook your food, whatever, okay? This is plant waste, effectively, that we burn. Now, some of you are confused about gasohol, okay? Gasohol is a way of using biomass. It's a way of using biomass. Go back to your textbook, explain what biomass we use and how we use it to create gasohol. That's your second thing that's got to for sure be in those Cornell notes. Okay? Good. Now we're going to sum it up. Okay, what you may have noticed, I hope you did, was that for 5 of the 6 categories of renewable energy sources, I talked about generating electricity. Okay? Using them to generate electricity. That's how we get energy out of these things on a grand scale and in a way that we can use them to do all sorts of things other than just keeping ourselves maybe a little bit warm for a few minutes. All right? So, your next question, what you need to do is, this is your third question, find out how an electric generator works. Okay? Find that out. Write down the answer. Yeah, you're going to have to do a little research online for that, aren't you? Write down the answer in 3 sentences or less. Okay? I'll see you in class tomorrow. Have a great evening.